So this is actually, I mean, this is a form of therapy called CBT, to be extremely specific with you, cognitive behavioral therapy. It's they use it mainly with depression patients, but I find it extremely useful for pickup, where you're putting yourself in situations in which you have to deal with good and bad. What is self-esteem? So I label it as the awareness of self. It's the idea that, unlike animals, human beings have an ability to both not only project into the past and future, but also project an identity, a set of values, belief systems that we feel we should be living by. So it's a view of oneself in a way that that is congruent and makes you happy, is going to build self-esteem, or a view that's incongruent, that a view that creates that incongruence between reality, what's actually happening, versus what you're seeing, lowers your self-esteem, creates it more difficult for you to do stuff. Inner game is built by having a very congruent and flexible set of rules, values, and standards for yourself, as well as a good internal dialogue. And it's important that you realize that you have a critic. It's the voice that tells you that nothing is good enough. And it's you know, you're not the best, you're nothing. He reads your friends' minds, he reads the situation. You know, when you're like, oh, I'm going to go over there and she's going to blow me out. He's like, he projects into the future and tells you how things are going to go, when obviously you can't know that. The thing that's really amazing to me is that it's the idea of this is it's woven deep into the fabric of your mind. It's a crazy idea. You're harder on yourself than you would be on other people. No matter how insane the rants are, we tend to believe it. That's the craziest bit. No matter how insane it is, because it's your own voice inside your head, you believe what it tells you. The best way to handle this, by the way, is to give it a name. I call mine Mr. Perfect, because my whole critic's job is about trying to make me perfect. You know, that's one of the things about pickup, is you always want to be really good, you always want to have the perfect response. There is this, for me anyway, I always want to be perfect. And it's way too rigid a set of guidelines. No one is perfect. There's no way anyone in history, the only person who's perfect is fictional characters, because they're written to be perfect, you know. And even then, you know what's funny? The people who are too perfect, they tend to creep us out a bit. Like, the best fictional characters are geniuses who are flawed. It's about realizing that this voice is, although it's trying to help you, it's trying to help you in a way that isn't actually helping you. I know what you're saying, because you're compartmentalizing a part of your brain. But at the same time, if you don't, the real reason you do that is it makes it much, you start to detect it. And once you start to detect it, you don't take it as seriously, thus massively limiting the effect on your self-esteem. It doesn't mean that you start listening to that voice, because sometimes that voice might have some insight, but a lot of the time, when he's saying you're stupid, you're dumb, or you shouldn't have tried to do this, you know that's not helpful. And you know that that's not how you would be normally a lot of the time. Again, it comes down to this idea that pickup is really, you're in the dirt, you're in the mud, you're in the thick of it. You have no value when you walk into a club, as far as the women are concerned. They can only gauge your value based on, you know, maybe social value, is how many girls you're with, how good a party you're having, how much fun you're having, and your looks and vibe. Nothing else. You could be like in the best shape of your life, you could have millions in the bank, you could be the happiest person in the world. She doesn't know any of this stuff. You could be the coolest guy in the world. You could have you could go surfing every weekend. You could fly planes, you know, have travel a ton. She doesn't know any of this. You're just another guy. And that's, you know, there is a certain part of your critic that's almost like when you have the more successful you are for some people, the harder you are on yourself. Because you're used to being treated a certain way and you have all this value in your head. When you fail, your voice is really hard, you shouldn't be doing this, you're better than this, right? Which is completely. So it all comes down to values, funnily enough. And the crazy thing is, it's common for you to accept values, especially from authority figures like your parents, your teachers, people, even me and Mihao. I'm very careful about what I say to you, because I don't want to set limiting beliefs, bad frames that might creep into you. But people will set values for you, and the problem with people setting other values for you is that they're not catered to you. Your parents teach you values that help them in their time, for example, not necessarily values that help you right now. And they taught you values for different skill sets. You know, we see a lot of people, you see people who their parents taught them at a young age, well, if you're the boss, you have to work more than everyone else. And then they work really hard and they neglect their family and their friends and their kids, and they have a horrible life. But they're still working on the set of values that they were given. And we do pick up our values from all sorts of places. That's the interesting thing. We don't always set our own values. And that creates a huge, huge problem for most of us. So here's some inflexible rules. These are kind of values that some people might have and pick up. As a man, I shouldn't be afraid of anything. I should man up. I should take care of this. It's an inflexible rule. You can't expect it to always be the man. You can't expect to always be able to overcome everything in your path. That would, say that I have no emotional range. I don't have good and bad days. I'm not human and can't screw up. I should always get it right is the same thing. I should always I should have got my own. I've been practicing this. It's like, no, it's still a new thing to you. Like, you can't be that inflexible, because that's when the critic can attack you on. If your rules are so inflexible, then your critic has got more ammo than it needs. And hey, you already paid. Think of it this way: you've already paid the price for your messing up. The girl blew you out. Why should you pay again by beating yourself up and lowering your own self-esteem? You paid the price. You fucked up, but you learned. That's excellent. Why pay a second toll by beating yourself up even more than you need to? Really interesting one that I see people have. Other people's needs should always come before my own. This is from guys who don't want to be dominant. They don't want to put themselves out there because they feel like other people have more right to exist. And as I was saying earlier, everyone comes into the world the same way. Everyone leaves the world the same way. No one gets out alive. And to take it a step further, when you're on your deathbed, the only person the only life that's going to flash before your eyes is your own. If you've lived your life for other people, doing what they told you, if you've lived your life indirectly because you just always want to please other people, you'll look back at me like, shit, I really should have made some more decisions on my own. I really should have stepped up and taken things further on my own. Because otherwise you're going to have a lot of regrets. And you should have regrets for the right reasons, which is you did it anyway and it was terrible, but you did it. Rather than regrets because you just couldn't bring yourself to that point. Again, that shouldn't be a definite rule though, because sometimes there'll be things that you don't bring yourself to, but you just can't at that moment for whatever reason. But it's a process, right? There's things like say you bungee jump, you're just like, okay, you know what, I just can't do it. Like, you look at this and it's just, for me, this is too far a step. That's fine. If it's a day-to-day thing though, you need to be able to accept failure and still practice.